right, boys and girls. What we were just studying was about the quilt shapes and the shapes you find inside quilts. And so what I thought I would do is show you how I cut some of those shapes in my quilt block design. So as you look at mine, you can see, you know, they're all rectangles and squares and triangles. And I wanted mine to go all the way around my quilt square. Yours doesn't have to go all the way around like mine. Yours can be more random, and you can just kind of place them where you'd like for them to be. But I wanted to show you how I cut those shapes. So I started with just a square sheet of colored paper, and then to change the square into a rectangle, I just cut part of that paper off. So if I finish there, so now I have two rectangles from a square, and they're not the same size rectangles, and that's fine, but they're both still rectangles. Then what I could do with this smaller one is I can make squares, smaller squares from this rectangle. So I'm just going to cut a few smaller squares like that. I'm going to make myself a little skinny rectangle right there. So there are some squares from the long rectangle. And then with one of these squares, I can cut that one in half, and I can make what? Exactly, two more rectangles. So if I get those out of the way, I could take one of these rectangles and I could cut it in half again to make some really skinny, really thin, small rectangles like that. Or I can turn it sideways and I can cut it in half and have some small squares again. So just from that one strip of paper that looked like this a few minutes ago, I now have all of these shapes. With a sheet like this, one of my squares, I can cut it, instead of cutting it in half across, I can go point to point, and I can turn that square into two triangles. So there are my two triangles. And if I squish them back together again, it makes the square right there. And then I can separate them out, and that makes two triangles, or I can turn them this way, right? Or I could turn them that way. There's lots of ways I could turn these triangles. So with a triangle like that, I could take the square that I cut from my rectangle, I can cut that one in half, and then I could, you know what I can do? I can cut this one in half again. Look there. So now I have some even smaller triangles. And if I scooch them close together, you can still kind of see the big triangle shape. And then, oh, look here. If I take another triangle and cut it in half, look there. So there's lots of ways that you can make different geometric shapes just from a rectangle. So who knows, maybe I want to scooch it around that way. I don't know. So that gives you an idea of what you can do with just a rectangle. You can make squares, you can make triangles. I know one of you out there is probably going to go, well, what about an octagon? Well, you could do that, but we're just talking about squares and rectangles and triangles today. So if you know how you can put octagons in your quilt square design, if you want to. So that's all I have to show you for today, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy working on your quilt square. Bye.